Jungle. nervous. We have two podiums, and the opposition will use one, the proposition will use the other. So we're going to be starting in a few minutes.
Audio Jungle. 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 Audio Jungle.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the finals of the Speakers National Youth Debating Competition. On Tuesday, we witnessed our semi finalists battling it out to advance to this level of the competition. The Grove Diamond Youth in Development Group emerged the winner with just 4 points more than the other team, and the Cummings Lodge Youth Movement emerged the winner of the other semifinals with a mere 2 points over the other team. This afternoon, these are the two contenders in what is expected to be a riveting debate. This afternoon, we bring the curtains down on this year's competition, and as I've mentioned before, it is our intention to make this competition an annual one. This afternoon, our esteemed judges for the debate are Dr. Valerie Gurasamy Smith, Chief Judge. Dr. Gurasamy Smith has been an educator for over 42 years at the primary, secondary, and university levels. She has a CXC English A. She was a CXC English A and B mathematics teacher for over 35 years and an English lecturer at the University of Guyana for over 20. Dr. Gurasamy Smith is the director of the Berea Royal College International. She has been in the pastoral ministry for 21 years, a general counselor, motivational speaker, both locally and internationally, and a debating coach. She is a two-time winner of the University of Guyana's interfaculty debating competition. Our next judge is Ms. Nazima Raghubir. Ms. Raghubir is a print and broadcast journalist. In 2018, she became the first elected woman to head the 76-year-old Guyana Press Association. She serves on the boards of the Jamaica headquartered Media Institute of the Caribbean and the University of Guyana Broadcasting Trust. For all her working life, Ms. Raghubir has in the media as a writer, reporter, managing editor, and news presenter, with stints at many prominent news agencies, including Prime News, and as editor of Insight, a public affairs journal. She is a stringer for many regional and international youth organizations. Ms. Raghubir has been part of this process of educating our people about the functions and duties of Parliament. She has authored and edited several print and media productions, including a published guide to the Parliament of Guyana. Our next judge is Mr. Delon Fraser. Mr. Fraser is a distinguished Toastmaster and has been one for over 10 years. He is a member of the One Country, One World Advanced Toastmasters Club and the Cacique Toastmasters Club. He has served and continues to serve in many leadership roles at the club's area, division, and district levels. Toastmaster Fraser has judged numerous speech contests and has served as a judge for previous youth parliaments. He has a master's degree in business administration, a bachelor of social science degree in international relations, a bachelor of law degree, and an advanced diploma in project management. Today, the proposing team is the Grove Diamond Youth in Development. This group is a youth based, non governmental organization which is registered with the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport. The group was established in July of 2009 when the founders thought that it was a good idea to assist youth, especially school dropouts and the less fortunate, especially in the Grove Diamond community. They did so by creating activities that will equip and enhance young people with skills to help themselves as well as to help others. Their first speaker this afternoon is going to be Mr. Romario Sweatnam, who is 26 years old from the Diamond Housing Scheme. Our second speaker for the Grove Diamond Youth and Development is Ms. Bibi Wazira Yassin, 22 years old from Luziknan, but Bibi works in the Diamond area. I think she's at the Diamond Hospital. The third speaker is Mr. Naresh Sugrim, 22 years old from Horstelling. The opposing group is the Cummings Lodge Youth Movement. The members of this group are enthusiastic individuals who are passionate about community development. The group is involved in a wide range of voluntary activities, including, like Grove Diamonds, skills training. Their first speaker is Mr. Richard Bainey, 22 years old from Cummings Lodge. The second speaker is Mr. Vikash Basdeo, 33 years old from industry. And the third speaker is Mr. Puran Dayal Omacharan, who is 32 years old and, like Vikash, is from industry. The moot is online classes during COVID-19 will widen the gap between the haves and the have nots. I now declare this debate, this finals, open. I call on the first speaker for the proposition, Mr. Romario Sweatnam from the Grove Diamond Youth in Development, to make his presentation. Romario?
Only education can erase the gap between the underprivileged and privileged. Sahil Kushar, a global peace ambassador. Honorable Speaker, distinguished judges, members of the opposition, viewers, all, good afternoon. I, Romario Swetnam, stand as the first speaker of the proposition, firmly in support of the moot, which reads, online classes during COVID-19 will widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Allow me to define the key terms of the moot. According to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary 2021, online means connected to, served by, and available through a telecommunication system such as the internet. Classes, a body of students meeting regularly to study the same subject. Widen, to increase in width, scope, or extent of. Gap, a space or interval. According to the WHO in 2020, it defines COVID 19 as an infectious disease caused by newly discovered coronavirus, resulting in a global pandemic. According to the Collins English Dictionary 2021, it defines the phrase haves and have nots as the first group being the wealthy and the second group being the very poor. Considering the definition of the pertinent terms, allow me to redefine mood to state electronically supported learning that relies on the internet during this global pandemic increases the space between the wealthy and the poor. Distinguished judges, we stand firmly in support of this statement. I, Romario Swetnam, will expound on the accessibility, availability, and integrity of online learning here in Guyana. Our second speaker, Bibi Wazira Yassin, will elaborate on the rights of a child to access education, while our third and final speaker, Nari Sugrim, will illustrate the economic struggle parents face during this global pandemic. The UN Convention on the Rights of a Child, Article 28 states, and I quote, every child has the right to an education. Primary education should be free. Secondary and higher education should be available to every child. End quote. Members of the opposition, how many children here in Guyana are currently being denied this basic right? According to an IDB report in 2017, and I quote, 41.2% of Guyanese live below the poverty line, measured at an earnings of $5.50 US per day, end quote. This is approximately 25,000 Guyana dollars per month. That is 41% who cannot afford reliable internet access, devices for their children to attend classes on, and most certainly they cannot afford to miss a day of work. Members of the opposition, while this ongoing struggle continues, in stark contrast, we have the middle and upper class who have reliable internet access, multiple devices for their children to use, and can maintain parental or adult supervision at home, the time and resources to actively engage teachers on their child's behalf. Erudite judges, according to Data Reportal's 2021 digital report, and I quote, internet penetration in Guyana stood at 37% in January 2021. End quote. What does this mean? This means that 63% of the have-nots continue and will fall behind bourgeoisie as the gap further widens. Following an interview with Ms. Moani Haripasad, a teacher attached to the Grove Diamond Primary School, she stated, and I quote, I am not able to properly evaluate my pupils. My lowest performing students came out at 100% at the end of term since we have shifted to online learning, and he did not even attend all of my classes. Did some of our children become geniuses overnight? Or is it with too many resources at their fingertips, we can no longer trust the integrity of our results? Honorable Speaker, without parental supervision, how can we monitor whether or not our children are attending their classes, and even when they are they actually learning or simply copying and pasting? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Romario. The first speaker for the opposition Cummings Lodge Youth Group is Mr. Richard Bainey. Richard, you are now on. Let's give Richard a few seconds to get to the podium. Use, thank you. Yes, Richard, you are now on.
Distinguished people present in this house today, all protocols observed. The moot is one which requires a thorough comprehension of the key terms. It is not a technical moot. Firstly, it is imperative to define the haves and have-nots. Thank you, you're the first speaker on the proposition for those definitions. But not only are they distinguished by not only are the haves and have-nots distinguished by financial independence and constraints, but the have-not is also constituted of persons who reside who are disenfranchised due to factors such as their locality. For example, persons who reside in the hinterland regions of our country. And the mood speaks of widening a gap, which suggested that a gap existed already. And indeed, this is so. The gap that existed already between the referred sections of society would relate to the reasons which affected the in person school attendance of these persons prior to the COVID 19 pandemic, namely issues relating to transportation, whether it is a lack of funding to access transportation or transportation is not available overall. Also, the have-nots, due to their limited financial freedom, were deprived of accessing in-person learning due to factors such as not being able to fund lunches or even clothing to attend school. A commonsensical perspective would enable you to understand that online classes have eradicated the need for these factors which are required to access in-person learning, therefore bridging instead of widening the gap between the haves and haves not. Judges, 5 days after the responded to implement mechanisms to ensure that access to education during this devastating time was stymied. Online classes was one such mechanism. Online classes can be accessed through platforms such as computers, tablets, smartphones. And we know in this modern age, smartphones have taken a predominant role. Due to competition in the smartphone industry, there has been cheaper, efficient devices that was able to bridge the gap between the haves and have-not, people who could not have afforded phones. The classes are conducted on platforms such as Zoom. To support the mechanisms, proper infrastructure was needed, such as reliable internet connectivity. Coupled with the requisite mechanisms that were implemented to bridge the gap, there were also initiatives implemented to ensure equal educational opportunity, such as the Coursera initiative through the partnership with the Commonwealth of Learning and our Ministry of Education. According to the Guyana Chronicle article, April 22nd, 2021 article, some 55,000 plus persons residing in our country registered for a variety of certificate programs offered by scores of Ivy League universities and others. Of that amount, when the initiative closed on March 31st, 2021, which lasted only 7 months, some 54,000 plus certificates were issued. Proposition: online classes during the COVID-19 pandemic facilitated the Coursera initiative, thereby allowing persons who are not privileged to access a tertiary level education, which is very expensive, therefore closing that gap between the haves and have-not. My second and third speaker will continue to enlighten you on how online classes during the COVID-19 pandemic bridged, if not closed, the gap between the haves and have-not. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. The next speaker for the proposition, the Grove Diamond Youth in Development, is Ms. Bibi Wazida Yassin. Bibi, you can start.
Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, distinguished judges, wise affirmative members, audience all, good afternoon. As the second speaker of the proposition, IBB Waziri Yassin will lay the pillars as I expound on the rights of a child to access education. Prestigious judges, the United Nations in 2015 saw the importance of education to put an end to poverty, to protect our planet, and ensure peace and prosperity by 2030. It is said that education carves a direct pathway for the achievement of these Sustainable Development Goals. According to the Sustainable Development Goal 4.1, it states, and I quote, to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all, unquote. Yes, inclusive, equitable, and quality education. An interview conducted with a primary level 5 teacher, Mr. Mira Reddy, who's attached to the new Diamond Grove Primary School, only 2 days ago revealed her profound sadness at the situation her pupils are currently facing since the pandemic. She went on to say, and I quote, out of 25 students, only 10 students I am able to maintain a teacher-student relationship. Of the other 15, their parents fall under the have-nots and usually complain of not affording devices or even internet access, unquote. The Sustainable Development Goal 4 further went into COVID-19 implications, which states, and I quote, school closures kept 90% of all students out of school, reversing years of progress on education, unquote. Wise affirmative, 90% of all students globally. Additionally, the Minister of Education, the Honorable Priya Manikchand, stated in an article in the Stabrook newspaper on May 2nd, 2021, and I quote, we expect, therefore, to be able to reopen school in September 2021 to every grade level, and we will work very hard to make sure that happens, unquote. Come on, wise members of the opposition, this is not rocket science. If our honorable minister is seeing this gap and she is willing to work diligently to open school to all levels, then it is indeed saying that she would have assessed the enormous gap between the haves and the have-nots. Members of the opposition, let us not fool ourselves. I thank you.
Thank you, Bibi. The next speaker for the Cummings Lodge Youth Movement, the second speaker for them, is Mr. Vikash Basdeo. Vikash, you may commence.
All protocols observed. Mr. Speaker, most esteemed judges, my learned friends of the proposition, I will continue to enlighten you on some of the significant efforts made by stakeholders, more specifically the government, to ensure necessary infrastructure is in place to facilitate online classes and bridge the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Honorable judges, the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on education resulted in an adjustment of the education system to meet the new modalities for the delivery of education, and this highlighted the need for internet service to be made affordable as well as fast, reliable, and of sufficient quality to support online learning as bandwidth-intensive applications such as Zoom have become essential to those learning from home. Most erudite judges, it was this wise and caring government represented by the Honorable Prime Minister, Mark Phillips, who announced the liberalization of Guyana telecommunications sector with the government on the 5th of October 2020. Licenses were issued to internet providers such as GTT, eNetworks, and Digicel. The liberalization of the sector created a competitive environment, allowing the consumer to ultimately be the benefactor, having more options. Not only did this move increase the amount of internet service provider, the competition it provided allowed for faster internet, more efficient, less costly, and greater bandwidth, which significantly bridged the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Most respected judges, in February 2021, Minister of Finance Dr. Ashley Singh announced the removal of value-added tax from residential and individual data services, which allowed consumers to have more disposable income available for purchasing of these services. Honorable judges, this was a move welcomed by internet service providers such as eNetworks and GTT, and also resulted in internet services being made far more affordable for consumers. Most erudite judges, to conclude, I wish to emphatically state that these policies, changes by the government, allow for internet services, which are essential for online classes, to be equally accessible and affordable by all of the population. And this is why we reiterate our position that online classes during COVID-19 will not, and I repeat, will not widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots. I rest my case.
Thank you very much, Vikash, from the Cummings Lodge Youth Movement. And now the third speaker for the proposition, Grove Diamonds Youth in Development. That speaker is Mr. Naresh Sugrim. Naresh, it is your turn to make your presentation.
All protocols observed. Good afternoon. I, Naresh Sugrim, will concretize my team's argument as I elaborate on the economic factor which parents are faced with when dealing with online classes during the pandemic, which profoundly stretches the distance between the gap of the have and the have-nots. Honorable judges, spare me a few moments so that I can bring to our attention some stats published by Kaichur News on May 7, 2021, and I quote, "Due to the COVID-19 pandemic and its damaging economic impact in Guyana, the median household income has noticeably decreased from 100,000 to 67,000, unquote. Wise opposition. Let's take these stats into careful consideration as I open the doors of a single parent of two, renting a home, who at the end of the month faces a decision to choose between their children's educational future or whether they can afford to eat. Friends on the other side, which would you choose, to eat or play for blaze? The opposition may want to fool us by saying that education is equal with online classes, but for our future's sake, let's not be blindsided by the facts. When, as stated by Numbrio 2021, the average cost of electricity is approximately $15,438, rent $53,888, and internet $12,333, respectively. A total of $81,719. Yes, $81,719 in expenses without the cost of food. Honorable judges, this is what nations face on a daily basis. Remember, without electricity or internet, there can be no online classes, which will put our nation's future in jeopardy when only a few who can afford it will gain. Esteemed judges, according to Forbes.com, May 3rd, 2021, and I quote, "Parents still need to hold on to their demanding jobs, please their bosses, provide childcare, and act as a de facto teacher to supplement their children's glitchy Zoom classes." Members of the proposition, for a primary school or secondary school student, work begins at 8:30 a.m. or even earlier. For many parents, work begins at 8 a.m. or even earlier up until 4 p.m. This information is known. How? How can parents perform their roles as de facto teachers when they can't even afford the time to be there for their children? In other words, without alert supervision, can we really expect children on their own to regularly sign into Google classes, actively pay attention, and still grasp concepts? Take into consideration that these includes children as young as 6 years old. Diligent judges, wise opposition. Education is a passport to our future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it. Malcolm X, a human rights activist. Thank you.
Thank you, Naresh. The third speaker for the opposition, Cummings Lodge Youth Movement, is Mr. Puran Dayal Omachoran. Puran, you're on.
All protocols observed. Mr. Speaker, our second speaker, Mr. Basio, has enlightened you on how internet access improved during the pandemic to facilitate online classes. Government, private sectors, and other stakeholders also implemented measures to see that every sector in Guyana has equal access to education, which I will expound on. Informed judges. They are students who live in the interior of Guyana who are among the most disadvantaged group in education due to being far-flung and without access to internet. COVID-19 has compounded this disadvantage, and the Ministry of Education recognized this from the inception when schools were forced to close in March 2020. Highlighted by April 22, 2020 Guyana Chronicle article, the Ministry of Education printed and distributed 8,400 workbooks to hinterland pupils in grades 2, 4, and 6 in regions 1, 7, and 9, all in an effort to ensure that these students have equal access to education and bridge the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Proposition. In addition, the Ministry of Education, through a partnership with UNICEF in late March 2020, was granted millions of dollars from the Global Partnership for Education Fund to spend in the educational sector. One area of investment was providing learning packages for vulnerable groups in the remote areas of the country. These packages included preloaded devices with content suitable to different levels to ensure continued learning. According to April 2nd, 2021 Chronicle newspaper, students of Region 9 saw these plans come to fruition when the Ministry of Education handed over preloaded tablets containing resources to grade 10 and 11 students in the region, which was hailed as a success by the students. Judges, for online classes to be successful, access to devices are a must, and the cost of devices might be expensive for most Guyanese. This is why Computers for Guyana, a private project, according to February 2021 Chronicle newspaper, saw hundreds of laptops being donated to students. Also, 269 tablets were donated by private sector entities such as KFC, Demerara Bank Limited, and Answer McCall Foundation to be distributed to 3 secondary schools in Region 9, as stated by the DPI April 4th, 2021 article. All of this was to aid the disenfranchised and prevent the increase in the gap faced by these people by online classes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Purandayal from the Cummings Lodge Youth Movement. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the initial presentations from the two finalists, the Cummings Lodge Youth Movement, the opposition today, and the proposition today, the Grove Diamond Youth in Development. The moot that is being debated is online classes during COVID-19 will widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Let us take a presentation from our Public Relations Officer for the Parliament, Mr. Yannick December, and then we'll come back to our debaters. Yannick?
Officer here at the Parliament Office. I'm also a member of the Planning Committee for the Speaker's National Youth Debating Competition, a competition which serves as a feeder into the 6th Annual Youth Parliament 2021. Youth Parliament was first hosted by the National Assembly in 2015 under the speakership of the Honourable Raphael Trotman. This year, Speaker of the National Assembly, the Honourable Mansour Nadir, thought it best to widen participation to allow more youths to become knowledgeable of the institution of Parliament.
16 youth groups from across our educational districts participated in this competition. 8 of those groups have advanced to participate in the 6th Annual Youth Parliament 2021. Today, our participants will receive their trophies, plaques, cash prizes, tablets, and a laptop for the best debater in this final debate. We were pleased to have had you tune into this competition via our social media pages, NCN, the Guyana Learning Channel, and GlobeSpan. We trust that we have fulfilled our promise of the experience of robust debates from our debaters.
I will now hand you over to the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Honorable Manzoor Nadir. Hello everyone, I'm Yannick December, Public Relations Officer here.
Thank you very much, Yannick. Yannick is one of the members of our organizing committee. I, at this time, would introduce the other members of the organizing committee for this inaugural Speakers National Youth Debating Competition. The committee is chaired by Ms. Carletta Charles. Ms. Charles, could you stand? Let's see all of you. Thank you very much, Ms. Charles. The person responsible for today's event, the finals, Ms. Delon Adams. Delon? Maybe she's still busy out in the foyer. Delon Adams. On the committee is Kishana Moore Dial. Kishana. Also on the committee is Ms. Christina Ramrup. No Christina in the dome. Working very hard. Also on the committee is Ms. Juliana Chatterpall. Juliana. Had it not been for our hybrid system of presentation, we would not have been able to host this competition. The IT group is led by Dio Duki. Dio. And they say birds of feather flock together. Next to him is the other IT genius, Mr. Ashley Hines. The other IT person is Mr. Alonzo Scipio. He's in one of the booths. Yes, still working hard, Alonzo. And the first person of the group to have been identified was the timekeeper, Jonathan Vikram. I recognize the presence of the honorable members, Ms. Geeta Chandan Edmond. Geeta, honorable member, and the honorable member, Mr. Ganesh Mahipur. Joining us today are also many participants of the 48 presenters in the first 16. In the first round of the debate that saw 16 teams contesting. I wouldn't call all the names, but those who had participated, just stand, let us get a chance to acknowledge your participation and presence. Thank you very, very much. We had 48 young persons from 16 youth groups across 9 educational districts participating. We want to thank you for participating in the program. We also want to say a special word of appreciation to your parents, your teachers, your coaches, and all of your supporters. Our Region 8 Madhya team is expected still, and when they come, we will try to present them to you also this afternoon. The Parliament is the hierarchy of Parliament. We have the administrative staff led by the clerk, Mr. Sherlock Isaacs. Sherlock promised me he was going to be here. He is going to be here, but present this afternoon is Ms. Armenia Gilgius, the Deputy Clerk of the National Assembly. Armenia. and another member of parliament who was also a judge, Miss Monette Garnett Christopher. Monette is here with us. Thank you very much. And next, seating to her left, Mrs. Christopher's left, is Ms. Anisa Mohammed, who has been one of our judges. Thank you, Anisa. Anisa. Anisa is also the head of the Learning Channel, a debate today which she is listening very keenly to because she has to present online classes for those 210,000 children in our school system. I think that number might be close to accurate, right, Anisa? Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the team that has been bringing this inaugural Speakers National Youth Debating Competition to you. The team includes the debaters. We are giving our finalists another minute to wrap up their presentations for the rebuttals, and then we will have the rebuttal. So the last 10 minutes of the 2021 Speakers National Youth Debating Competition is about to begin. Before we bring them on, had it not been for the kind cooperation also of the Honorable Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport, Charles Ramson, and the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport, we would not have been able to bring this competition off. We want to express our appreciation, our thanks to the Honorable Minister and his team. The rebuttals will start with the opposition. The opposition is led by, I shouldn't say led, but the first speaker, Mr. Richard Bainey, will lead off in the rebuttal. The opposition is the Cummings Lodge Youth Movement, and Mr. Richard Bainey is in place. Richard, you now have a last, final chance to impress all of us. Richard, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Distinguished judges, my friends on the proposition bench, I will deal with your points one by one. The first point you purported is the availability of devices to access online classes during the COVID-19 pandemic. But my third speaker informed you of the donations by the private sector and the government to ensure persons were afforded devices to access online classes during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I told you of the hinterland students who might have not had internet access. He also told you that preloaded tablets with resources were distributed. The second point you mentioned was internet access. My second speaker, Mr. Basdio, would have enlightened you on the requisite measures that were put in place to make sure internet was free and fair across the country. The third point you mentioned was teachers engaging students. Can't they do this virtually? You also spoke about performance and students' performance in school. Everybody cannot cram and go in an exam room and write back what they cram to go in the exam room. I am a university student myself, and online classes have enabled me to grasp a greater understanding of my work and apply the content in a more meaningful way. Your second speaker spoke about access to education. I told you of the Coursera initiative, did I not? You cited the UN, but our own government took the opportunity to initiate the Coursera initiative. Isn't this access to equal opportunities? You also spoke about teacher-student relationship. I come back to my point. What is stopping this? Can't this be done virtually? Pick up the phone and call each other. Opening school or not, as you would have mentioned that the minister purports that school will be open in September, we don't know how certain that is given the rate at which the virus is going, but COVID-19 has revolutionized our archaic education sector. We were strangers to online learning prior to this, were we not? Look at the mechanisms that were put in place to facilitate online learning, developing the sector, revolutionizing it. How can you come here and tell us about opening school? Why can't we have a merge, a mixture of in-person learning and online classes? What is going on? You also spoke about, my second speaker, Mr. Bazzi, also spoke about liberalization of the sectors and affordable internet access. And you spoke about equal access to education and online learning. Don't you think this enabled that as well? Your third speaker, I think he misunderstood the mood. And like I told you from the beginning, judges, it required a thorough comprehension of the key terms. He came here to tell us about economic factors. This is not what we were discussing. While this might contribute to the gap, we were discussing how online classes during the COVID-19 pandemic bridged or widened the gap between the haves and have-not. Like I said, thorough comprehension was required. In the end, after hearing all of this, you cannot come here and consciously tell us that online classes during the COVID-19 pandemic widened the gap between the haves and have-not. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. And the proposition, Grove Diamond Youth in Development. The first speaker was Romario Swetnam, and Romario is here to close the presentations for the 2021 Speakers National Youth Debating Competition. Romario, it is now your turn to impress everyone with your rebuttal.
All protocols observed. I, Romario Swetnam, stand robustly for a second and final time to continue to stand ardently in full support of the moot. It is quite evident that the wise members of the opposition are blindsided of the fact that online classes during COVID-19 widens the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Allow me to remind you of my definition of the phrase haves and have-nots. According to the Collins English Dictionary, the first group is the wealthy, while the second group is the poor. The first speaker of the opposition mentioned that online classes can be accessed through computers, tablets, and smartphones. Honorable judges, I would have mentioned that as of January 2021, 37% of our population did not have access to the internet. Allow me to redefine online classes again. Internet access is required. Distinguished judges, the second speaker of the opposition mentioned the various companies that offers a range of internet services that was made far more affordable. But should I ask, a mother who is renting a home, facing this pandemic, and experiencing a difficult time, as my third speaker would have mentioned, should she choose between eating and paying for internet? This affordable internet that is now more accessible, who exactly benefits from it? Is it the haves or the have-nots? I am amazed that the intelligent members of the proposition are not seeing that online classes during COVID-19 widens the gap between the haves and have-nots. Let me refer to the third speaker of the opposition, who stood boldly to speak out about the workbooks being distributed in the hinterland area, along with the preloaded devices. But may I ask how workbooks are related to the moot, when it actually proves that online classes is inaccessible and obviously nothing but a disaster? As my second speaker would have always also pointed out, the average income per household as at January 2021 is currently $80,000. As I would have also pointed out, 41% of Guyanese currently earn lower than the poverty line, which is marked at just $25,000 as well. With the stats that you would have pointed out when it refers to the internet costs, who exactly can afford that? Who exactly is it accessible to? Is it the haves or the have-nots? Is it the wealthy, the bourgeoisie, or those that are currently struggling to make ends meet? Sagacious judges, the gap between the privileged and underprivileged is real, and the additional burden of online education only continues to widen it for the under-resourced have-nots. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Romario Swetnam from the Grove Diamond Youth in Development. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. 4 rounds of competition coming down to those last few minutes presented to us by the two teams in the finals. The Grove Diamond Youth in Development, the proposition today, and the Cummings Lodge Youth Movement, the opposition. We will give our judges an opportunity to summarize their scores and to make their decisions. I will remind you of our judges today. Our judges today are Mr. Delon Fraser, a distinguished Toastmaster for over 10 years, who holds a Master's of Business Administration degree, a bachelor's degree in social science, and a bachelor's degree in law. Our next judge is Ms. Nazima Ragobir, the president of the 76-year-old Guyana Press Association, the first woman to be so elected. She is also on the board of the Jamaica headquartered Media Institute of Guyana and the University of Guyana Broadcasting Trust. A very popular journalist in Guyana, Nazima is a stringer for many international media organizations. And our chief judge today is Ms. Valerie Gursami Smith, who has been an educator for over 35 years, university lecturer for 20 of those years, still continues to lecture, been the best debater, winning competitions in New York and the US Virgin Islands, St. Thomas. She is also doing a course. Sorry, she's also the coach for the course Mastering the Art of Public Speaking, our judges today. I want to pay a special recognition this afternoon to a young man from Port Kaituma. Last year, when the results for CXC came out, he was ungraded for mathematics, ungraded for English, and ungraded for the principles of business. And the entire nation in the Caribbean had some amount of concerns about the grades students all across the region had received. There were several initiatives to have grades re-examined. At the end of the re-examination, this young man who had 3 ungraded marks, especially for the 2 top subjects in the world, mathematics and English, he ended up with 9 grade 1 passes and 3 grade 2 passes. And he topped Region 1 and was the best graduating CXC student for the entire hinterland region, regions 1, 7, 8, and 9. And in the semifinal, he was adjudged one of the best debaters. Let us recognize the young man who continues to struggle against the odds from Port Kaitumu, Mr. Kieran Williams. Kieran, where are you? Thank you very much, Kieran. And this is the kind of perseverance, commitment, and standing up for principles which will make our country a very great one. Thank you very much, Kieran. Let me just check with our judges. I see the pencils are working. It's strange that we're using calculators and not tablets with spreadsheets, right? No, but this is an interactive process, and so you cannot you cannot do away with the pencil and paper and the original tablet. You see, I write all the time. Yes. So our judges are putting the final touches on the speaker's inaugural National Youth Debating Competition, a competition that spanned just over a month and against the odds, including engaging in hybrid system of virtual along with in presence, we were able to ensure that this competition comes off and comes off very successfully. The objective of the competition, as Yannick said, was to ensure we can impart on our people the knowledge about our democratic institutions. And the parliament, the legislature, is one of those. The three branches of government, the executive, headed by His Excellency President Irfan Ali, and the judiciary, headed by the Chancellor Acting, Madam Justice Janet Cummings. We have had the kind cooperation of the Learning Channel, NCN, DPI, and GlobeSpan. That cooperation ensured that these debates were transmitted live and rebroadcast to our people. So all of you debaters, you had an opportunity to impress all across the globe. We had people from as far as Alaska tuning in. We had in the Caribbean and locally. The comments from social media and the responses for your presentations were extremely proud, motivating us to ensure that we will do this again and again, and more particularly, that we can move you on to this setting in August as we engage in the national youth parliaments. And we're going to see many of the familiar faces among the 16 youth organizations that participated. Will be right here in August. I think it's the second week of August, participating in the youth parliament. Our judges, how are we? Coming? And the judges are ready. Let us remind who our judges are. Dr. Valerie Gursami Smith, our chief judge, Mr. Delon Fraser, and Ms. Nazima Ragobir. And noting that he is tucked between the roses, let us ask Judge Fraser to make some comments.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and good afternoon to all the participants here this afternoon. It's good to see your faces and to see you in the physical space, and I'm happy that you're all joining us this afternoon. We've had a really nice debate this afternoon. I kid you not. I've seen the growth and I've seen the development coming from the participants here this afternoon. So I love your structure. I love the beginning of your presentations. We understood the definitions that you were looking at, and we also understood your interpretation of the mood. So we were able to follow your presentation from the very beginning. We also thought that your structure, how you moved from your introduction of the arguments, how you moved smoothly, transitioned from one point to the other, we were able to follow those as well. While there were some arguments that were sort of divorced from the facts, we were still able to understood where you were coming from. I would just like to encourage you as you move forward into your self development as advocates that you focus a lot on your presentation and preparedness because you would recognize from the other two judges and myself, you will recognize that when that second bell rang, that is when most of you were wrapping up, which therefore meant that you would have spoken beyond the allotted time. So I'm asking you to please, if you're giving a specific time to prepare your presentation and present it, that you do so timely. And this would help when you continue to polish your argument as you rehearse it over and over again. I would also like to say that you guys had really good vocals. I can see that some of you were very comfortable with the points and with the arguments that you were presenting. We had very good usage of the literary devices, and I can tell that they were good research. So with that, I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity, and may the best team win.
Thank you, Judge Fraser. And now for our next judge, Ms. Nazima Ragabir. Nazima, Judge Nazima.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, fellow judges. Congratulations to both teams, and congratulations to all the other teams who are here this afternoon. As my colleague judge said, this is a welcome change because we were able to see, sense, and feel the energies of the teams, which is what we love about debate. You see the passion, you feel the passion in the room. I wouldn't have much to say about the style of the debate and some of the issues raised. I think we're at a point where we have seen growth and we have seen the type of debate that we expected based on the past few weeks. I would say I saw some generalization, and at this stage of the debate, you have to stay away from generalization in the debate. It is, you're at a point where you hone in on specific things and specific arguments and you build those. Uh, and so I wanted to mention that going forward, please allow this debate and this experience to define your future actions. Define how you consume information, what you're listening to, what you're reading to, and your conversations with people to be able to grow. And it's not only for the teams that are finalists, but to everybody here who have participated. I look forward to seeing you in the Youth Parliament in August and hearing more about you. One last thing, I'm an advocate for the use of Guyanese as a language, and we're here on our soil, and I would like to hear more Guyanese, or what we say is Creole, from time to time. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Ragubir. And now, rub your palms against your clothes, dry it a bit. For the decision, Chief Judge Dr. Valerie Gursami Smith. Dr. Smith?
Sorry. Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Speaker of the House. I want to truly stop to congratulate you for bringing together 16 youth groups in this country, turning their focus to academics, turning their focus to discussion on current issues. I, as chief judge throughout the competition, I am very impressed with the current, modern, up-to-date mood that they've chosen. They all brought fresh discussion to the table. They brought us to think about some things we never thought about. I think the topics were well chosen. I want to congratulate the Speaker of the House and the team that worked with him over time, I guess, to bring this to such a place where the competition is culminating today with great success. Let's give a rousing round of applause to the Speaker of the House and all those who work with him to get this off the ground through Zoom, through internet, with the haves and the have-nots participating from all around the world. And when I saw the nations that were viewing this debate, I really had to adjust my mindset to think that using online, internet has really done us a great favor in this pandemic, COVID-19. The journey those in the hinterland region would have had to gone through to come out to debate would have been very challenging. And I am truly impressed with this move. And I would like to see it go forward, like the Speaker of the House said, that it's going to be an annual feature. I want to congratulate this move. I'm a great supporter of young people being educated and their attention being turned to useful, profitable things and turn them away from the distractions in society. So with those comments, I want to say all the debates that were done as judge in the category of the few that I judge really entertained my appetite. And I really went forward in a very genuine way. I didn't see the debate competition as something that is just a debate to win. I saw it deeper than that. I saw it changing our very lives and our very thinking. So again, thank you to the team that came up with the various moves over the few weeks we've been doing this. All the teams, I don't know if they're present, we want to give a rousing round of applause for all the teams that debated, all the teams across this nation, all the young people. When I heard about Cummings Lodge and Grove and Queenstown, I'm saying it's not all lost. It's really good. So we congratulate all who debated, all who won debates, and like every competition, you have to come to a place where you end up with a team, a winning team over the time. And this afternoon, we have truly been treated to a very powerful discussion, a very controversial topic, which is, the thing about it, the disadvantage, I believe, that the groups operated in is that current information is needed for this topic, current, useful current information. And we are still acquiring that. We are still experiencing that. So the information that you managed to accumulate is congratulatory. Both teams, for the information you got, the evidence you got, and it's timely. I didn't hear anything outdated. Yet, like Mr. Delon Fraser said, you have points, but you have to marry the points. I mean, I borrowed his term. So there were many points that were made, but we did not see it underpinning and going back to that redefinition that you gave for after you wonderfully defined your terms, you restated your moat. Now everything that you do in that debate has to go back to strengthen that redefinition. And we didn't find that being used by one team very much. However, we thank you for treating us to a good discussion and for giving us the opportunity to be able to judge you and give you some scores. Everybody did well. We are very disappointed with the level of reading, however. You can't doubt it. It's on tape. You know, you see your eyes going down to the paper. There was no way of hiding it or being discreet about it. Maybe when you were home, you could have it somewhere. But reading was too high today. And both teams lost on that count, lost marks, lost points. And we want to encourage you again, as a public speaker, as a debating coach, as an English teacher, I believe an audience needs to be treated to discussion. We also find that the audience was not so much engaged. Both teams were engaging the judges and the Speaker of the House, and you did not engage this big, powerful audience. That's a privilege at the end of the competition. So we felt that the audience was almost absent. You could have said, and I'm sure you in the audience and the erudite judges are agreeing with me that such and such is such. You know, we needed some more flavor in the debate anyhow. But we thank both teams, opposition and proposition. Let me call the names: the Cummings Lodge Youth Movement versus the Grove Diamond Youth in Development. Let's put our hands together for both teams and what they did today. As we listened to the debaters, we did recognize potential for powerful speakers in the future. Powerful speakers. But amidst the speakers, 3 from the proposition, 3 from the opposition, all of us agreed that Mr. Let me get his name, Mr. Richard Bainey has come out today as the best speaker. Let's put our hands together for him. The better rebuttal today also went to the opposition. The scores today, after all the calculation and subtotal, came up to 287 versus 221. The gap is a little wide, and majorly because of reading and not connecting your points. And I'm going to borrow Delon's term from today and onwards, marrying the discussion. So let me not delay you anymore. At the culmination of the Speaker's National Youth Debating Competition 2021, in the season of the pandemic, which has come to a great success, is no other than Cummings Lodge Youth Movement. Let's give them a round of applause, rousing round of applause for emerging as the finalists, the winners of the Speaker's National Youth Debating Competition 2021. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, judges. Thank you very much, Chief Judge. I thought we were going to see Richard in with the fortnight dance again, but today he brought out his diamond sword. Congratulations to our 2 finalists. Congratulations to the Grove Diamond Youth in Development, and heartiest congratulations to Richard and his team, the Cummings Lodge Youth Development Group. It's been a great competition. Thank you, judges, all of our judges, and give us a few minutes. Richard, you can do that dance for us as we prepare now for the presentations. Thank you.
Audio Jungle.
of the Diplomatic Corps, Clerk of the National Assembly, Deputy Clerk of the National Assembly, esteemed judges, debaters, other invitees, colleagues, media, online viewing audience, all, good afternoon, and welcome to the prize giving ceremony of the inaugural Speakers National Youth Debating Competition. I invite you to stand as we recite the national pledge. 2, 3. The pledge is to always proud and to be loyal to my country, to be obedient to law, love my fellow citizens, and to educate my country. Please be seated. Today, as chairperson of the organizing committee of this competition, I am privileged and honored to be in the presence of 48 youths who participated robustly and contributed tremendously to many topical issues. A discourse which is not only national, but international. 48 participants from the 16 youth groups, from 9 of our 11 educational districts, took part in this competition. Today, on our program, are 4 respectable persons who I would invite to bring remarks. First, I invite one of our chief judges, Ms. Nazima Raghuveer, to deliver her remarks. Ms. Raghuveer.
I wasn't aware that I was going to be put on the spot so quickly, but good afternoon, everybody. Speaker of the House, Ministers of Government Charles Ramson, Kwame McCoy, and Minister Susan Rodriguez, I should know this. Members of the Diplomatic Corps, I see other members of Parliament here, Ganesh Maipal and Geeta Chandan Edmund. Clerk of the National Assembly, Deputy Clerk, and of course the staff of the Parliament who were able to pull this off very effortlessly. I thank you. Most of all, the teams, congratulations. Congratulations to the finalists and the winning teams. I think it was a very healthy debate this afternoon, and one that was able to give the sort of finality to this competition that was needed. Congratulations to you both. And congratulations to every single one of the participating teams. Very impressive young people. And I can see, based on your debates and based on your contributions, you have a lot to offer to this country. Which brings me to this. If you can contribute in whatever way you can, it is very important. I can see and feel the passion. I said this earlier. The passion is definitely there. And I mean, the first time I debated was probably about 14 or 15 at the school level. And with the opportunities that you have now, with the learning opportunities, with the materials available for you, there's so much that you can do and so much that you can be able to, that you can achieve with what is available now. I just want to ensure that you know that and you use the opportunities that are available to you. A couple of recommendations as we move on. I know I've mentioned this to the speaker, a little more training, for the next activity. And this is where I think the ministries can get involved to see what additional training can be done. And I mean, this is a long shot, but I would have really liked some of the youth parliamentarians going forward into the bigger debates to maybe understudy survey the parliament and understudy some of the members of parliament to help them. One of the useful things that I noticed that wasn't used in any major way is that the parliament library is accessible and is a source of material. There's speeches from members of parliament there. So, maybe in the training, if those guidance would be given to the speakers, it would be helpful. All in all, I think it was a very good competition, a very good debating competition, and I look forward to seeing more of you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Raghavir, President of the Guyana Press Association. Our next speaker is the Honorable Member Ganesh Maipal. He is the Acting Chief Whip. Mr. Maipal.
Thank you very much, Madam Sessional Chair, Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, Mr. Manzoor Nadir, Honorable Minister of Culture, Youth and Sports, Mr. Charles Ramson, Honorable Minister within the Office of the Prime Minister, Mr. Kwame McCoy, Honorable Minister within the Ministry of Housing and Water, Ms. Suzanne Rodriguez, members of the diplomatic community, Clerk of the National Assembly and staff of the National Assembly, distinguished judges, participants, all present. Good afternoon. I was asked on behalf of the Leader of the Opposition to say to the Honorable Speaker that this initiative is one that is most welcoming in society, and I believe that we should all put our hands together for the Speaker of the National Assembly for such an initiative. Sir, I have paid attention to this debate competition from its onset, and I believe that your staff, the members of the National Assembly that assisted you in executing this project, did a fantastic job, and I believe they also deserve a round of applause. It is also fitting for me to recognize all 16 youth groups that participated in this competition. I believe you all did an excellent job, but it was a competition and the best team won. The judge's decision is final. Can we put our hands together for all 16 teams? I would like to leave two very short stories for our young people, and they will decipher its meaning, and I trust that they will use it going forward. The first is, there was a very young person that wanted to challenge a senior, that wanted to challenge a teacher, and he wanted to prove that the teacher did not know everything. And you know that's how young people are. They oftentimes believe they know it all. And what this young person did was to get a baby bird and put it in his hands. And he clasped his hands and he went to this great teacher. And he said, "Oh, great teacher, you do not know what is it that I have in my hands." And the teacher said, "Oh, yes, I do. You have a baby bird in your hands." And the young person said, "Is the bird alive or is it dead?" Now, the young man knows that if the teacher says the bird is dead, he will open his hands and the bird will be seen as alive. And he also knows that if he says the bird is alive, he will just squeeze his hands, kill the bird, open his hands and show a dead bird. Because his objective was to really prove that the teacher does not know everything. So what is it that the teacher said to the young person, the young man? Anybody knows? The teacher said that the answer to that lies in your hands. So I say that to tell you that what you decided to do going forward from this experience and all the experiences you're getting in life lies in your hands. Not mine, not the Honorable Speaker or the Ministers of Government or my good friend Geeta Chandan Edmund, Honorable Member. It lies in your hands. So take that and always remember it as you charter the way forward. The other one has to do with a hunter that was going to catch his food. And whilst he was in the forest, there was a spiritual person in the forest that was praying, communicating with God. And there's no better way to do it than with Mother Nature. And whilst this person was sitting praying, a deer ran across to hide, and the hunter was behind. But the hunter did not see where this deer went. But because of the noise, it disturbed the spiritual person, who opened his eyes and saw where the deer went. And the hunter came up and asked the gentleman that was praying, "Have you seen that deer that I'm chasing?" Now, the spiritual person knows that if I say, "Yes, I have seen the deer," the hunter will kill the deer. And that is not something that our religious teachings subscribe to. And he also knows that if he says, "No, I did not see the deer," then he will be lying. And you cannot lie when you're seeking to communicate with God. So he also had to give an answer. Anybody knows what he told the hunter? He said that the eyes that see cannot speak, and the mouth that can speak did not see. The eyes that see cannot speak, and the mouth that can speak did not see. And I think a valuable lesson comes out from that as you move forward in your future endeavors. I have enjoyed the debates, all of them, and I have seen how you have matured and metamorphosed into becoming better debaters. But it's not like how you did it in the National Assembly. And my friends on the government side and the opposition members will tell you that is not how it happens here. So I'm sure when COVID goes, hopefully it does sooner rather than later, the Honorable Speaker will take the opportunity of inviting you to sit and observe how it happens in the National Assembly. It's far way more flamboyant and it's far way more dramatic. And the sad thing is, we don't win debates in the House with 3 neutral persons judging us. It is 1 on numbers. But oftentimes, number doesn't really matter. It's your conscience at times. So my dear young friends, I congratulate you, all of you. As far as I'm concerned, you're all winners, and you have all learned something that you can ascend in life with, and I wish you well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member Mai Paul, for those 2 stories. I trust our debaters have learned a valuable lesson from them. Our next speaker is the Honorable Charles Ramson, Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport. Honorable Minister, the podium is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a very great pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. And allow me to take the opportunity to congratulate the organizers for this event, the speaker and his hardworking staff who works tirelessly and deals with a lot of the flamboyance and drama that comes along with being part of the Parliament. And I would also like to take the opportunity to congratulate all of the participants of this event. I would also, as we are on this, draw to your attention of how important your involvement in the process is, and how important it is as well that when you decide to put yourself out in the open and expose your learning process to the world. I know how scary it can be. When I entered the parliament for the first time, I was maybe about 30. And I know how preparing for your first parliamentary debate, I also know how you can live with some of the disasters when you mispronounce words for the rest of your life. I still hear about that even today. I even had an experience, or I still, at times when I'm getting under the skin of the opposition, they sometimes pull out a little sheet to say, I don't know if they got the original word correct, but they write it out and say Batty Lion. Sometimes they get it correct and say Banta Lions, because that's what I originally said. You live and die by the sword in front of the world, but what's important is that you have the courage to do it. And for that, and the world, I don't like to back you, so if you don't mind, I'm going to step over like this. The world is defined by the people who have taken the courage to take a stand. And over the last maybe year and a half or so, our country was defined by people who stood up to take a stand, had the courage to take a stand. And leaders are nothing without the people who stand with them. A lot of the times when I take stands on positions, it is because I know I have the strength of the popular will, knowing that we have been empowered to do some of the major reforms that you would have seen. So I would like to take the opportunity particularly to congratulate all of you for taking the courage, or having the courage, to put yourself out there and be exposed to the world while you are learning and growing in front of everyone. And just so that you get an understanding of why and how that can be important too, is my PA, her name is Hema Joseph. Hema was best speaker in the youth parliament. I earmarked her in my mind 2 years before I got into the position of whatever it is that I knew I was getting into. I had earmarked her in my mind as somebody that I recognized who had talent. How did I first recognize her as somebody who had talent? Was through the speakers, youth parliament. And then I had an opportunity to work with her as well, because I was involved she was working for the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce, and I was the chairman of the Petroleum Committee. So I had an opportunity to first see her and then get a chance to see how she would work. And being able to communicate, but more importantly, being able to persuade, is one of the most important skills that you can have in your life. In your life. Because when you want to be able to influence outcomes, you have to be able to persuade people to follow you. You have to persuade people that this idea is a good idea, just as much as I'm trying to persuade you that what I'm saying right now makes sense. So, and I also, just like Ganesh, who I saw, he had a haircut. I'm not sure if it was for this event, Mr. Speaker, but if it is the case that he got this haircut for this event, I would encourage you to have this event every month. Parliament, I'm not going to keep you guys too long, but I want you to understand, though, that Parliament is an important way in which we organize ourselves as a civilization. And it's very important that you understand how our civilization is organized, and why the Parliament is such an important part of the process. Human history has been fraught with centuries and millennia of just sheer fighting. Fighting remains an important part of the process. But in a democracy, it's about the battle of ideas. You get to test the strength of your ideas leading up into an election, and then also after you would have tried to implement those ideas after the election. The public gets to judge. Because you must be able to recognize that it's an important part of the process, not that there's an absence of fighting, it's just the most civilized version of fighting, battling those ideas. You have to be able to protect the process. Protect the process. It's not a building. It's not a chair. It's not a desk. It's not a mic. It's not a book. It's your involvement in the process. And understanding how it works is the first part of the process. The second part of the process is also involvement. So when you understand that, when you understand how important it is to be able to protect the process, you are in turn protecting our civilization, our way of life, and all of us, because this is how we live our lives. I want to just say also that I looked at a number of the presentations, and just like Nazima had mentioned, the word that I found that was common throughout all of the presentations was passion. Passion is a very, very important ingredient for success. Most people like to talk about hard work and intelligence, etc. When you have passion towards your goals and your objectives and how you do your work, etc., you give it everything you've got. You've given everything that you've got. And when you're doing your debate, one of the things that I would like to recommend to you or suggest to you is that there's a difference between being passionate about your persuasion and being aggressive about your persuasion. And there's a big difference in what it could lead to. So if I'm trying to force something down your throat, okay, your first response is push back. I'm not going to take it, right? But if you try to persuade while being passionate, but not necessarily being aggressive, it becomes far more palatable. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't a time for aggression. There is a time for an aggression. But when you're trying to debate and you want to be able to make sure that the person understands and they take your ideas or take your points in the easiest way possible, try to make your presentations in avoiding aggression as much as possible, only unless it's necessary. Allow me, on behalf of the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport, on behalf of my cabinet colleagues who are here and the government of Guyana, to wish you and your families all the best and to let you know that you have our support and we will continue to have our support. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for those profound words. It is now my honor to welcome the Honorable Manzoor Nadir, Speaker of the National Assembly, the man behind the competition. I invite you all to stand. Welcome, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I prefer to stand beside the young people rather than have them behind me. Madam Chair, honorable members of Cabinet, distinguished members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of Parliament, debaters, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. First, let me offer my congratulations again to all of the debaters, the 16 youth groups that come across from 9 of the 11 educational districts. 11 educational districts we have. Region 4 has 2 educational districts, Georgetown and the rest. So we had 16 groups with 48 debaters, and most of the folks in the dome today are all of the debaters. Could you just stand, let the world acknowledge all the debaters today? Thank you very much. This was not just a debating competition. This was an initiative that seeks to make our institutions of democracy within the state more prevalent among our people. And as Speaker, I am embarking on a number of initiatives so that we can promote these democratic institutions. This is one vehicle to speak about our parliament, its functions, and its role in promoting harmony, civility, and cohesion among our people. A number of other initiatives are going to be launched, not only nationally, but our work among parliaments and parliamentary groupings around the world. We're honored today to be joined by His Excellency, the Indian High Commissioner from the largest democracy in the world. And our dear friends from the diplomatic community who continue to support this fledgling democracy in Guyana. And young people, don't believe that Guyana and the Caribbean is a zone of peace. Don't believe that we do not have it as bad as some other regions of the world. I'll take you back just 50 years. In the last 50 years, we've seen 2 revolutions in Grenada. 2. We have seen an assault on the parliament in Trinidad and Tobago by the Jamaat al-Muslimin, where people in their parliament were killed. We've seen the assassination recently of a president. We have witnessed the assassination of an elected minister of government in this country. So don't believe and don't take for granted what we have here. We have to continue to speak about it, educate everyone about democracy, respect for rights, and more particularly, civility among our people. Am I speaking out of turn? Well, all of the young people here, I'll tell you, 40 years ago, I was where you are. I was where you are. And in 1987, on July the 25th this year, St. Lucia is going to have elections. And in 1987, a young man managed the campaign of a young person, 24 years old, who would later become the Prime Minister of St. Lucia. And I had the honor of managing his campaign in St. Lucia. For all of you, there is among the Commonwealth and all the countries that fell under the Queen's rule are bound together by Her Majesty under the Commonwealth. And in the Commonwealth, once you reside for 1 year legally in a Commonwealth country, you have the right to vote there. You don't have to be a citizen. You do not have to be a citizen. So I wasn't interfering in politics in St. Lucia. I was there legally and entitled to participate. And I will also tell you that in 1993, Guyana hosted over 300 delegates at the Caribbean Youth Parliament. Among the debaters and the parliamentarians were persons like the Honorable Attorney General Anil Nandlal then. And 2 years later, I had the honor of reaching a young man at a smaller parliament, youth parliament, who stood up and said he wanted to be mayor of Georgetown. Today, that gentleman is the Honorable Kwame McCoy. And we had that parliamentary session in the auditorium of the North Georgetown Government Secondary School. So I'm confident that today, what we have seen culminating from all these debates and these 48 young people, honorable ministers, honorable members of the diplomatic corps, I'm confident we are going to be seeing persons from these 48 debaters emerging to serve their nation at the highest level in almost every sphere of endeavor. And I want to thank their parents, their coaches, and more particularly, all of their supporters for working with them, having them involved in this competition. We are going to annualize it, and it's going to feed into the youth parliament. Before I take my seat, want to acknowledge at very short notice the cooperation of the Honorable Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport and the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport in identifying the youth groups. Thank you, Honorable Minister. I want to also thank the staff of the National Assembly, and they have done a remarkable job in bringing this hybrid competition off. Thank you, staff. Our judges, we've had very distinguished judges, experienced judges, and they have done a marvelous job. And to all of you who watch NCN, the Learning Channel, GlobeSpan, who carried these debates live and we rebroadcasted it, has more than contributed to the objective which we had in mind. That is to bring the functions of our democratic institutions to the people. They would have contributed enormously in that endeavor. Thank you all. Congratulations to all. And please enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for your remarks, for this initiative, and for affording us the opportunity at the Parliament Office to organize this competition. All 48 participants will receive today certificates of participation, youth debaters pin, and other memorabilia. It is that time. I invite the organizing committee to distribute those certificates as I call the names of our youth debaters. From the Grove Diamond Youth in Development, and you can give them a round of applause, Mr. Naresh Singh. Mr. Naresh Sugrim, Ms. Bibi Wazida Yassin, Mr. Romario Swetnam. From the Cummings Lodge Youth Movement, Mr. Vikash Basdeo, Mr. Richard Bainey, and Mr. Purandale. From the Oronox Sports Club, thank you, Kishano, Mr. Kieran Williams, Ms. Kezia Albert, Ms. Kezia Albert, and Ms. Shania Mitchell. From the Queenstown Youth Group, Ms. Divine Alana Ross, Ms. Kira Mahadio, and Ms. Tabitha Al. Thank you, Alonzo. From Anna Regina Youth Group, Mr. Rajkumar Kemraj, Mr. Amar Lochan Budra, and Ms. Devishani Naipal. From the West Bank Young Achievers, Mr. Gabriel Jose, Mr. Nkosi Jupiter, and Mr. Denzel St. Hill. From Small Steps Big Impact Youth Group, Ms. Malika Russell, Ms. Narissa Stewart, and Mr. Travon Melville. From Young Professionals Youth Group, Mr. Randy Diochan. From Cast Talent Management Youth Group, Mr. Jovan Sampson. Miss Crystal Wills. And Mr. Ose Clark. From the Barbies Development Youth Group, Mr. Vikash Budu. Ms. Babita Singh. A few of our youth debaters could not make it, unfortunately. Thank you, Mr. Budu. Ms. Babita Singh. And Mr. Chitranjan Jaikasu. From Golden Ohm Youth Group, Ms. Savitri Ramlochan. Mr. Chandradat Sipasad. And Mr. Chandradat Jagdev. From the Swing Star Youth Group, Mr. Tejnath Sukhdev. Mr. Kevin Adar. And Mr. Anil Ramgahan. From Angoy's Avenue Youth Group, Mr. Delroy Marks. Ms. Latoya Bethu. Ms. Kimberly Smith. From the Madhya Youth Group, Mr. Joshua Hines. Miss Alicia Harris. Miss Devita Ramphal. From the Linden Superstar Youth Group, Miss Sharmila Solomon. Mr. Sean Duggan. And Miss Charissa J. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you, team. Our competition was adjudicated by 9 erudite judges. To express our gratitude today, I invite Mr. Sherlock Isaacs, the Clerk of the National Assembly, to distribute special tokens to our esteemed judges. And we will commence with today's Chief Judge, no other than Dr. Valerie Gurusamy Smith, former lecturer of the University of Guyana. Thank you. Next, we invite Mr. Dallon Fraser, Distinguished Toastmaster, Cacique Toastmasters Club. Dallon was another chief judge in our competition. I invite Ms. Anisha Mohammed, another judge in our competition, head of the Guyana Learning Channel. I invite Mrs. Monet Garnett Christopher, Chief Admin Officer at the Parliament Office, to receive her token. Mrs. Melissa Dow Richardson, Director of Sport at the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport, was another very capable judge. Mr. Rayon Miller, Best Debater for Youth Parliament 2018, also adjudicated our debate. Coincidentally, in 2018, the best speaker was another Miller, Miss Miracle Miller, also adjudicated our debate. And no, they're not related. Our two other judges were Ms. Nazima Ragobir, who had to leave today, and Mr. Neil Marks. I don't see Mr. Marks around, but we appreciate them nevertheless. Thank you, Mr. Isaac. The first round of debates saw 8 best debaters emerging. It is time to recognize those debaters. I first invite Mr. Dallon Fraser to distribute prizes to a few of those best debaters. And they are Ms. Divine Ross from Queenstown Youth Group. And Ms. Bibi Wazida Yassin from the Grove Diamond Youth in Development. I invite Mr. Chan Jilai, Chargé d'Affaires of the Chinese Embassy, to distribute our prizes. And those prizes are to Mr. Randy Diochan from Young Professionals Youth Group and Ms. Shania Mitchell of the Oranok Sports Club. Thank you. Mr. Ray Davidson, Deputy British High Commissioner, will now distribute prizes. Those best debaters are Mr. Vikash Budu from Barbies Development Youth Group, and Mr. Amar Budram from Anna Regina Youth Group. Thank you, Mr. Davidson. It is my pleasure to invite His Excellency Mark Berman, the Canadian High Commissioner, to distribute our prizes. Best debaters, Ms. Marissa Stewart, Small Steps, Big Impact Youth Group. Mr. Vikash Basdeo, Cummings Lodge Youth Movement. Thank you, Your Excellency. In the quarterfinals, the best debaters were Ms. Kezia Albert from the Oranok Sports Club, and we invite His Excellency Dr. K.J. Srivanasa from the Indian High Commission. And Ms. Kira Mahadio from the Queenstown Youth Group. Thank you, Your Excellency. I invite Mr. Mark Collinane of the United States Embassy to distribute prizes. Those best debaters were Ms. Malika Russell from Small Steps, Big Impact, Mr. Richard Biney, Cummings Lodge Youth Movement, and Bibi Wazida Yassin from the Grove Diamond Youth in Development. Thank you, Mr. Colony. Now for the runner-up teams in the semi-finals of the competition. I invite Honorable Member Ganesh Maipal to distribute those prizes. The runner-up team in the semi-finals, Oranup Sports Club, Mr. Kiran Williams. Miss Kezia Albert. And Miss Shania Mitchell. Thank you, Honorable Member. I invite the Honorable Minister within the Ministry of Housing and Water, Honorable Suzanne Rodriguez, to distribute prizes to the second team of the runner-up in the semifinals. Queenstown Youth Group, Ms. Divine Ross. Ms. Kira Mahadio. And Ms. Tabitha Al. Thank you, Honorable Minister. I invite again the Clerk of the National Assembly, Mr. Sherlock Isaac, to distribute prizes to the best debaters of the semifinals. In the semifinals, the best debaters were Ms. Tabitha Alves of Queenstown Youth Group, Mr. Vikash Basdev from the Cummings Lodge Youth Group, Thank you, Mr. Isaac. There were 4 best debaters. To distribute prizes to the other 2 best debaters, I invite Honorable Minister Kwame McCoy, Minister within the Office of the Prime Minister. Mr. Kiran Williams, Oranup Sports Club.
Kwame thought he was the best debater. Kwame, what's going on?
Ms. Mr. Naresh Sugrim, Grove Diamond Youth and Development. Thank you, Honorable Minister. It is time to award the debaters we witnessed in action today in the finals. The runner-up team, Grove Diamond Youth in Development, and I invite Honorable Charles Ramson, Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport, to present those awards. From the Grove Diamond Youth and Development, Mr. Naresh Sugrim. Naresh is walking around. Ms. Bibi Yazida Yassin. Mr. Romario Swetna. And the third debater, Mr. Naresh Sugrim. Honorable Minister, kindly remain. Honorable Minister, kindly remain. This competition would not have commenced without the almost immediate response and cooperation of the Honorable Minister, Charles Ramson. In light of this, Ms. Kashano, in light of this, we wish to extend our appreciation to Honorable Minister Ramson. Thank you, Honorable Minister. It is time to recognize the winners of the entire competition. 4 rounds, 15 debates. Today's winners are from Cummings Lodge Youth Group. I invite the Honorable Speaker and his beautiful wife, Mrs. Nadir, to present these awards. Mr. Vikash Bazir. Mr. Richard Bainey. Mr. Purandayal Omachuran. Thank you, Honorable Mr. and Mrs. Nadir. Honorable Speaker, now that you've escorted your wife, could you please return? Mr. Speaker highlighted the pivotal role played by the Honorable Kwame McCoy in having a pioneering vision to introduce youth parliament to Guyana. I invite Honorable Minister McCoy to now receive an award.
Kwame, you could keep this one now.
The best debater in the finals And who will receive a brand new laptop? We already know the name. Mr. Richard Biney. Please remain, Mr. Speaker. All of our finalists will receive laptops, tablets. Maybe next year. All of our finalists will receive tablets. I invite you, Mr. Naresh Sogrin, Ms. Bibi Wazida Yasin, Mr. Mario Swetnam, Mr. Vikash Bazir, Mr. Richard Benny, and Mr. Purandayal Umachuran. Congratulations, you truly deserve it. Our finalists will also receive cash prizes. I see my team is looking at me. You need names? Mr. Naresh Sugrim, Bibi Wazida Yasin, it's worth it to be in the finals. Mr. Romario Swetnam, Mr. Vikash Bazdeo, Mr. Purandayal Umachuran, and Mr. Richard Biney. The best debater will also receive another cash prize. Mr. Richard Biney. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. To bring the curtains down on this prize-giving ceremony, I welcome Ms. Juliana Chatterpole, one of the organizing committee members, to give our vote of thanks. Ms. Chatterpole. Ms. Chatterpole is telling me she wants to give another prize. For the winning team of today's competition, we invite you to receive the biggest trophy in the room as memorabilia.
I'm so happy. Speaker of the National Assembly, Ministers of Government, Members of Parliament, Clerk and Deputy Clerk, of the National Assembly, members of the Diplomatic Corps, special invitees, judges, participants, members of the media in attendance. It is with great pleasure that I stand before you to extend the vote of thanks to the individuals that made this event a success. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Speaker's National Youth Debating Competition. Despite the COVID-19 pandemic, which dictated the way we socialize, this event was successfully executed in just under 2 weeks of planning. First, I would like to thank the Almighty who blessed us with the breath of life. This is a testament that our life's purpose is yet to be fulfilled. To the Honorable Manzoor Nadir, Speaker of the National Assembly, thank you for taking this initiative. An initiative to widen youth participation, to bring awareness, spark conversations, and shed light on social issues that would directly and indirectly affect each and everyone present here today. To the participants, I'm kind of emotional. I'm so happy. To the participants from the various educational districts, thank you for exhibiting confidence, expressing your interest and willingness to share your point of views during these robust debates. To the viewers, can't skip these people, these are important. You are the future leaders of this nation, and I hope that the experiences achieved in this competition can successfully aid in your future endeavors. To the judges, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to assist in molding beautiful minds. Over the past few weeks, you have displayed patience, shared knowledge, and strategies of how to become a successful debater. Special thank you to the Honorable Charles Ramson, Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport, and his ministry for their involvement in selecting the various youth clubs across the 11 educational districts. Thank you to NCN, the Guyana Learning Channel, and GlobeSpan for broadcasting the debates live, and for DPI's assistance for this final debate. To the viewers who streamed, shared, and left comments on the various media platforms, thank you. During these debates, your constructive criticisms were welcome, and we look forward to your continuous support. An event like this did not happen overnight. It required strategic planning and a bird's eye view for detail. Thank you to the Planning Committee, the hardworking staff of the Parliament Office, the abundance of technicians, media extensions, caterers, those who contributed spontaneously and also worked tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure the success of this event. Your efforts and will have not gone unnoticed. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I thank you for being here today with us. It has truly been a great pleasure. I just want to now invite you for refreshments on the ground floor.
Audio Jungle.